Hi, and welcome to AmalgamNation Presents World of Lorecraft, Titancraft Edition, Gnome Lore. Ugh. Sorry about the weird sound there, I just hate the gnomes, so this one is a little bit annoying for me to do. But before I get started, I just want to make an announcement to do with this channel over the Christmas period. On Sunday coming, there is an unboxing video going up. That will be the last game vid until January sometime. Hang on, I'll just double check my dates. Until January 10th. January 10th I will do another game related vid, and I'll continue back in the same order as I've always done. So on the 10th you'll get a game vid, the 17th you'll get World of Fictioncraft, 24th you'll get game vid, 31st Fictioncraft, and then 7th of February you'll get a game vid again, and so forth, right the way through the year, starting on the 10th. Until the 10th, after this Sunday, so starting on the 20th of December, I will be doing World of Fictioncraft readings for 3 weeks in a row. That way there's 3 chapters done, and it's a very large fan fiction. I'm enjoying reading it, I'm enjoying doing the vids and sharing it with you all, but I want to relax over Christmas, and doing the readings and the World of Fictioncraft and World of Warcraft vids is a lot less work for me than doing a game related vid, because I don't have to play a game to do them. Quite simply, I still have to spend a lot of time editing and recording them, but I don't have to do much more than recording audio and editing the audio to sound pretty decent, in my opinion. So sorry about rambling for 2 minutes there, or a little over 2 minutes. We'll get on with the show, shall we? Gnomes are a diminutive, wiry race of tinkers who live underground. In the Second War, they built gadgets and vehicles such as submarines and flying machines for the Alliance to combat the Horde. They are great mechanics and inventors, renowned for their knowledge and eccentric natures. The Gnomes had a city, Gnomergan, built into Ironforge Mountain, but invading Trogs destroyed it and slaughtered its citizens. Go Trogs. Many survivors now live with the Ironforged dwarves, a few travelling with their dwarven friends to Kalimdor. The gnomes are still reeling from the destruction of their home city and are loath to leave the safety of the dwarven tunnels. Most gnomes on Kalimdor remain secluded in Bel Modan. Even after the decimation of their race and the destruction of their city, gnomes are an amiable and kind-hearted lot. They make and keep friends easily. Other races often find disliking a gnome to be difficult. Not me. Gnomes are long-lived and take a fatherly approach to other races, particularly humans. Gnome society is loosely organised, with most living in Casmodan and mixing freely with the dwarves, sending representatives to speak to the dwarven king on their behalf. Those few gnomes who travel to Kalimdor live in a similar fashion in Bel Modan. Gnomes are gifted thinkers and have a penchant for creating radical technology and innovative designs. They often work together with Ironforged dwarves, developing the blueprints and concepts from which the dwarf smiths draw their inspiration. Gnome history. The eccentric, often brilliant gnomes are one of the most peculiar races in the world, with their obsession for developing radical new technologies and constructing marvels of mind-bending engineering. It is a wonder that any gnomes have survived to proliferate. No one knows much about the gnomes' history before dwarves discovered them. Not even the gnomes know much of their history prior to the Second War. Historically, there are some records of gnomes having contact with other races. There is the occasional historical documentation of individual gnomes having contact with humans and high elves in the northern continent of Lordaeron in Tirsfall Glades, as early as 848 years before the Burning Crusade. Apparently the first gnomes that came into existence were mechagnomes, small clockwork creatures created by the Titans. It is unknown why the Titans created them, though most likely they were created to help shape Azeroth along with the Earthen and the Sea Giants. What is known is that the Mecha-Gnomes, like many other beings created by the Titans, were affected by the curse of flesh. This gradually turned Mecha-Gnomes into the fleshy variant seen today. Also, for unknown reasons, this knowledge has been lost by the Gnomish race. Information of this evolution can still be found on various locations, gradually explaining how the Gnomes appeared in Azeroth. One of the major sources of this info is Gearmaster Mechazod, a mecha-gnome found by normal gnomes in the Borean tundra during the building of an airship. Not only does Mechazod confirm that the mecha-gnomes were created by a titan called the Grand Architect within Ulduar, and that fleshy gnomes are a result of the Curse of Flesh's effect upon mecha-gnomes, he also possesses the ability to remove this curse and thus revert fleshy gnomes back to mecha-gnomes. Still, most normal gnomes would prefer he didn't. Other traces of the gnomes' past can be found in the Storm Peaks, which contains a large population of mecha-gnomes. The first widely recorded interaction between gnomes and dwarves occurred a little over 200 years prior to the Burning Crusade. As the story goes, a dwarven explorer came across a small gnomish village. He was shocked to discover that while dwarves had just discovered gunpowder, the gnomes already had a fully automated village with such novelties as mechanical chickens. Contact between the two races grew, and soon they became quick allies, and the dwarves allowed and helped the gnomes to build their capital city, Gnomergon, in the foothills of Dunmorrow, just west of the dwarven capital, Ironforge. Thriving within the wondrous techno-city of Gnomergon, the gnomes shared the resources of the forested Dunmorrow peaks with their dwarven cousins. Though dwarves also have a propensity for technology and engineering, it is gnomes who provide the critical visionary designs for most dwarven weapons and steam vehicles. The gnomes served the Alliance well during the Second War. Strangely, they refused to send any personnel to aid their allies during the Burning Legion's recent invasion during the Third War. Though their designs helped turn the tide against the Legion, humans and the Ironforge and Wildhammer dwarves were shocked by Gnomergon's decision to withhold their courageous troops and pilots. When the Third War ended, the Alliance discovered the reason for the gnomes' sudden withdrawal. Apparently, a barbaric menace, Trogs, had risen from the bowels of the earth and invaded Gnomergon. Knowing that their allies' priority was defeating the Burning Legion, the gnomes decided to make their stand alone against the Trogs. Though they fought valiantly to save their beloved city, Gnomergon was lost and nearly 80% of the gnomish race was wiped out during its fall. The ragged survivors fled to the safety of Ironforge. Committed once again to the cause of the Alliance, the gnomes spend their time devising strategies and weapons that will help them retake their ravaged city and build a brighter future for their living in numerous Alliance and neutral cities such as Darkshire, Gadgetzan and Lorthanal. Many gnomes can also be found competing with their goblin rivals. One can also spot the occasional gnome hovel in places like Tanaris, the Hinterlands and the Shara. The ruling council of the gnomes used to reunite in Ironforge at Tinkertown. In Outland, gnomish encampments appeared at the fringes of the world, including Toshley Station in the Blade's Edge Mountains, and in Northrend, Fizzcrank Airstrip in the Borean Tundra. While the motive behind their activities in Outland is unclear, the gnomish force in Northrend is tasked in establishing a forward base for the Valiant's expedition. More recently, the gnomes fought to take back their beloved city, Gnomergon, but failed to take back the entire city. Instead, they recaptured the surface, known as New Tinkertown, and have since stayed there, slowly moving away from Ironforge. Gnome Legacy. The first detailed historical account of a gnome is Airbag, the gnomish representative of the Thirst Fallen, during the early days of Aegwynn. Airbag was described as being highly talkative as well as rather impatient with Aegwynn. He stands as an accurate and general example of the gnomish psyche. He was already inducted by the time of 848 years prior to World of Warcraft and spoke on par with his human and elven counterparts, despite their relative obscurity in historical records. It is known that Airbag was preceded long before his birth by a female named Indus, also a member of the Council of Tirsfall. 2,600 years before the First War, she was the group's gnomish representative in her day. Not only was she a respected, powerful mage, but following her people's penchant for tinkering, she was also known as the inventor in Dalaran. She was an associate of founding council member Merrill Fellstorm, then known as Winterstorm. She, Merrill, and the rest of the surviving council would empower the first guardian of Tirsfall, an orphaned half-elf and talented mage named Elodie. Recently, the gnomes discovered Gearmaster Mechazod, a mecha gnome in Northrend. He claimed to be one of the first gnomes ever created, like their dwarven cousins, by the Titans. Whether he was one of the first could be debated, considering that he was insane, but more mecha gnomes have been found maintaining Titan data and even riding mecha striders. It has become clear that mecha gnomes were created by the Titans for a certain purpose, much like the earthenware, and were affected by the curse of flesh to eventually be transformed into gnomes. Gnomes have not had kings or queens in 400 years. Gnome culture. Little is actually known about gnomish culture. Though what gnomish life really revolves around is unclear, it is perceived by most to be about striving towards the next levels of technology and knowledge through experimentation and tinkering. This is corroborated by the comments and clothing of gnome NPCs. It is not known what social norms may exist for gnomish marriages, though Marvin and Tamara Wobblesprocket provide at least one example of humans and gnomes intermarrying. Whether or not half-gnomes might be produced from such unions is unknown. Gnome faith or beliefs. Gnomes place their loyalty in themselves, in their friends, and in their inventions. A few follow a loftier path and pay their respects to the Holy Light. Since the Ironforged dwarves' recent discovery of their titanic origins, the gnomes think that they too may be products of the Titans. The accidental discovery of the mecha-gnomes by modern gnomes confirmed them to be correct on this assumption. Some female gnomes have been known as members of the Sisters of Steel that have shown abilities to turn their flesh to stone or steel. Languages that the gnomes know. Gnomes speak Gnomish and Common. Gnomes know the languages of their friends and their goblin rivals. Also, it is not uncommon for gnomes to refer to themselves in the third person. Gnome names. Gnome parents name their children at birth. Gnomes have family names that represent an honoured ancestor's achievements, but they only keep these names until sometime in their 30s. At this point, Gnome society expects them to have made their own achievements, and thus the gnome invents a new name that represents his own accomplishments. This name then takes the place of his family name. Many gnomish surnames include words related to technology and engineering, with words such as boom and spark. Male names include Grobnik, Casbo, Hagen, Snoonose. Female names include Begra, Nefti, Sarasa, Gamash, and family names include Spin Pistol, Air Slicer, Bomb Tosser, and Great Gear. Gnomes and technology. Gnomes tend to design fairly complicated devices that are relatively safe. Gnomes are in many ways commensurate organizers. A gnome can spend as much time or more organizing and planning a project as they do actually working on it. If the design fails, they try to learn why and fix it if they can. If they meet with success, they will continue to tinker with it and improve the design, often for years afterward. Thus, many gnomish designs feature a high degree of complexity and a low chance of failure, the exceptions being those that dabble with chaos energy, but even then they take steps to ensure the worst that could happen is a brief, non-fatal failure. Gnomes over-plan new projects, producing blueprints and schematics that can take longer to make than the device itself. While this cautious attitude results in higher quality products and a greater success rate, it often takes so long that cost overruns creep in. While a goblin would scream and flee at the mere thought of a cost overrun, a gnome simply shrugs and presses on. If a project fails to work correctly the first time, a gnome will continue to tinker with it, while a goblin would usually give up and move to something else. Thus, gnomish items have very low failure rates compared to goblin items. Gnomes are innovative tinkerers and are responsible for a vast variety of inventions, including more than a few that are commonly attributed to dwarves. Although a diminutive people, gnomes think big, often producing designs far too complex to be ever realized. To gnomes, technology is a way of life. Even gnomes who take on other trades often tinker in their spare time. Because of their innate curiosity, they produce a wide variety of devices that are interesting or amusing, but otherwise useless or impractical. While others might shake their heads at such folly, gnomes value all invention, no matter how unimportant it might seem. Among the well-known gnomish devices are the World Enlarger, Netomatic Projector, and Harm Prevention Belt. Gnome appearance. This first part is my own personal thing. Personally, I think gnomes appear as short, annoying little shits that I just want to kick across the screen as far as I can kick them and obliterate their entire race, because I hate the little shits. However, lore-wise, gnomes are approximately 3 feet tall, being the shortest sentient race in Azeroth. They are small, nifty, and light on their feet. They somewhat resemble dwarves, but are even shorter and not as stocky. They have petite bodies, but large facial features and ruddy skin. Their ears are quite large and rounded, and their hair colour varies wildly, some even having pink or green hair. Gnomes only have 4 fingers on each hand. They are often seen with goggles, tool belts, and other items related to their technological inclinations. Before the Gnomeregan incident, some gnomes, such as Noarn, had earned a reputation for themselves by wearing an eccentric hairstyle known as a gnome fro. Thanks to their extremely small size, in World of Warcraft, gnomes can be hard to target to click, making it harder for enemies to target you using their mouse. This is especially helpful in the event the gnome is a fury warrior or rogue. Gnomes who specialize in melee weapons are also particularly hard to target due to their acrobatic fighting styles combined with their small size. Their small size can also be advantageous to people who like to explore. Gnomes, even after Cataclysm will be released, are the absolute shortest race and can go many places. Height keeps other races from going. Gnome relations. Gnomes have great relationships with the Ironforged dwarves. They have been allies for generations and often exchange ideas and inventions. Their bond is so great that they live in many dwarven settlements, including Ironforge itself. Gnomes have fought and died alongside human soldiers and have been readily welcomed in Stormwind City with open arms. They are wary of the High Elves, but so is everyone else, so they don't feel too bad about that. They battled the Horde in the Second War and have a bit of a grudge against orcs, but gnomes are a kindly and forgiving lot and are willing to give the orcs a second chance. Gnomes and goblins have always been rivals, though whether this rivalry is friendly or brutal depends on the individuals involved. Gnomes have not been on Kalimdor long enough to form proper opinions about its denizens. Tauren and Night Elves both seem rather rustic for gnome sensibilities, but they can make friends with anyone. Gnomes in Night Elf territories are tolerated, despite the high number of gnomes who work with arcane forces. The gnomes believe that with their use of arcane magics and technology, they offer something that Night Elves lack in defense of their lands. Other gnome races. Leper gnomes are normal gnomes that have been corrupted with radiation and poison. Most of them have lost their sanity. Sand gnomes are an exclusive race of gnomes only seen in Outland. Many even doubt their existence. Mecha gnomes. Apparently, if Gearmaster Mechazod's words are true, gnomes once used to be robots. Undead gnomes. Although they are not their own race, undead sometimes gives gnomes a rather unique look. Now, if you've made it to the end of this vid and listened to all of it, thank you for listening, and I appreciate it. Sorry about that little knock there, but I just hit off my microphone while saying that. Secondly, I'd like to make an announcement. I have recently taken a short break from playing World of Warcraft due to being distracted by other shiny games. Yes, I did say shiny games because to me all games are shiny and new if I have not played them before. So I've recently been distracted by about 4 other games all at the same time pretty much. So I've been trying to play those. I won't tell you what they are because I don't want to mention them by name, but let's just say they distracted me. So I logged back in last night and I noticed that about 20 or so people have left my guild in World of Warcraft. So I'm planning to more than likely disband that guild or pass the reins on to somebody else and then reactivate my original guild from when I first started playing World of Warcraft. And I would like to invite anybody who's listening to this to come and join that guild and let's bring it back to life. There have been no active people in that guild for a very long time now, and I would like to change that. I'd like to make it one of the most active guilds out there. I don't care if it's raiding. If you want to go do raids, then by all means we can work towards that goal, but the main goal should be to have fun and to bring about, basically, yeah, just have fun, not bring about anything. But we'll set goals once there's a group of us. The server that I play on is Argent Dawn on the EU side of World of Warcraft, or eu.battle.net I think it is. And if you don't currently play World of Warcraft and you're listening to this and you're interested in it, at the moment you can buy it for about €15 for the current expansion pack and €5 for what is commonly referred to as the battle chest, I believe. I'm just going to check those prices now while I'm recording this. So let's see, World of Warcraft merchandise in the battle.net store, games. Yeah, World of Warcraft, which includes all of the expansion packs up to Mists of Pandaria, and including Mists of Pandaria, is currently $4.99. That's €4.99 for that, and you get a free month of gameplay with that. And then you have World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor for $14.99. So for €20 you get the full game, you get to play up to max level, and you can come and join me in the Argent Dawn and join my guild, the Crimson Fists, and together we can become a pretty awesome and fun guild. You'll get to interact with me, and I'll try and lure all my other friends to join us in that guild. So the likes of Twopenny Milk, if I can get him over to the dark side of gaming, as I call it, I will get him to come and join us in the Crimson Fist. And same goes for anybody else that I interact with. I will try and get as many people as I can to join us. I want to make a big fun guild and make a virtual AmalgamNation, or virtual nation I should say, in World of Warcraft, because we will be called the Crimson Fist, because I already have that guild and I've had it since before the Burning Crusade expansion pack, which was the first one. So that's €20 for the game altogether. Subscriptions are easy enough to sort out. Even if you don't have a credit card, you can walk into GameStop and buy a top up whenever you want. You enter the code and off you go. I'm not going to expect you to be logged in all the time if you do decide to join me, and we'll make doing things a little bit more fun, because if you're playing the game with me and you're following my vids and a subscriber, I can begin to do cool things like the occasional giveaway of in-game pets and mounts and things like that. I don't mean stuff that you can loot, I mean you can buy these things, and I will buy an in-game pet. For example, there is one called the Cinder Kitten. It's basically a cat made out of fire, and it's got some really cool armor pieces. It's a vanity or battle pet, and you can buy that in the store, and it's a nice little pet. I'm actually going to buy it for myself now in a moment because I actually like the look of it. I'd give away things like that, and I'd love to do little giveaways like that because these aren't expensive, but they're cool. And the only downside is I can't give them to somebody who doesn't play World of Warcraft, so it's kind of unfair in that sense. Sorry about this taking so long, especially considering a large part of it is me rambling on and on about asking you guys if you'd be interested in joining me in World of Warcraft and joining my guild. If you are interested in it, please comment below and tell me who you are and tell me when you're going to create an account, if you're going to create one, or when you're planning to switch over to come over to my server, whether it's a new character or transfer your main. It's up to you. I don't expect you to spend all your time, if you do play the game already, on my server. I'd just like it if we could get together and do things like go off and do old raids and help each other get new transmogs for armor and things like that. I want it to be a very friendly, sociable guild is the main thing. So, once again, sorry about all that guild stuff, but I just wanted to get that out there. I also want to do a shout out to 2 people who recently started subscribing to me on YouTube. I want to give a shout out to Super Sorrel and Katrin. Super Sorrel, I recently did a podcast with him and 2 Penny Milk over on 2 Penny Milk's channel. Link will be below to that specific podcast. And through that podcast, you can find links to both their channels. And also, I'd like to. Katrin is 2 Penny Milk's fiance, and she seemed very nice and cool. And together, the 3 of us had a great time pissing off and ripping the piss out of 2 Penny Milk for about an hour and a half after the podcast that I'm going to link you to. I think he actually posted a lot of that stuff, so I will put a link to that if I'm right in saying he posted it in the description below as well. So as always, remember, play to game and game to play.